Okay. Praise Yeshua. We're picking up from Genesis chapter 2, and we just read, well, we can read them again. 7 through 9. And Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So I just wanted to stop there really quickly and just go back to the ownership thing. We're seeing that the original man, without Yahweh, we wouldn't exist, because it started with Adam. It's his breath that was allowed Adam to live. So it just goes back to Yahweh created us, and it's not our life. It's not what we're doing. He created the rules. He creates the boundaries for mankind. What's acceptable, what's unacceptable, what allows us to get into heaven, what doesn't allow us to get into heaven. He created these things. He's our creator. But I also wanted to focus on number 9, verse 9, because there's something that's mentioned that we'll see a few more of these things. But the very first thing comes is that Adam was in the garden, and all these things were good, but then this tree gets placed there. And it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Yahweh tells him he can eat from all the rest of the trees, but this one you leave alone. And I'm going to put a period in that because I want to come back to it. But we see something that could cause trouble. And for now, we get to start thinking about, well, why would Yahweh put that there in the first place? You know, he could have just left Adam alone, and he could have just been fine and put nothing there. So why put that tree there in the first place? Why present this obstacle to him? Because we would have been fine, you know, if he would have put nothing there. But we'll see why in a minute. But there are a few more things that were placed there that could cause these issues. So I want to jump to verse 15. And this will come back around to what we have ownership over and what we don't. So verse 15. And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to dress it and keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. And I want to stop there too, because that's important too for us, because Yahweh could have placed us here and had us just pulling blind, not knowing what to do. But one thing he always does from the start is make sure that man knows what's the requirements, what are the rules, what's his law. He sets that. So the same as Adam. He didn't just set that tree there and just leave it there. He told him, no, leave that one alone, so that Adam knew what to do. Same thing with us. We're not walking this world blind. He wants us to succeed, so he tells us how to succeed. He tells us outright, this is how you win. This is how you make it. This is what you're supposed to do. Now, it's up to us to listen to that. But he tells us up front, so that we're not going to get to heaven one day and say, well, Lord, I didn't know. You know, I mentioned that before because some people use ignorance as an excuse. But even if you don't know how to read, this Bible right here is on a tablet. You can just press play and listen to it. So you have access and ability, especially us in the United States, because there are other countries where it may be more difficult and people get executed, but we got ease of comfort. We can hear the word in many different ways. Now we're streaming because of the pandemic, so you can sit on your couch and listen to the word. You ain't got to do much. You can get it if you want to. And even those people that are in these challenging places, if they want it bad enough, they can get the word. So we know how to succeed. We know what the law is. We have access to it. He wanted to make sure that we knew. Because again, he wants us to win and succeed. He wants us to be able to make it. He wants everybody that wants to make it to heaven. So I'm going to tell you how to get there. So the same thing for Adam. He didn't want Adam to mess up. So I'm going to tell you how not to mess up. Now, we still may be asking, well, why put something into place in the first place for him to mess up? I'm going to get there, but we're going to keep reading. So 18. And Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. And out of the ground Yahweh formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. I want to stop there because I just remembered something I forgot in the first part, but it kind of goes along with this. Going back to Yahweh creating this for us, something that I thought was special too in the first chapter was, if we go back and look, it said, it was really the Holy Spirit that reminded me of this, but it said, and Yahweh saw that it was good. It says that over and over again. because it's like a parent. It made me think of my mom, because she likes to give gifts to people, and for some reason she likes to show me the gifts that she gives to people. She does that a lot, where she gets something for somebody and she gets me to show me that she got this for this person, and she's excited to show me. She's excited for this gift, and don't let it have been on sale. Then she's really excited to tell me. So she's excited, but I like it because she's very happy and she likes giving gifts. So she likes she want to show it off. Like, look what I got for this person. Even though it's not for me, but she likes to show it off and say, look at what I got for this person. It's nice. She like to pull it out. If it's some clothes, she'll lay it out for me so I can see. But she's proud of what she's done. So it's the same thing for Yahweh. He made this for us, and he stepped back and said, man, this is something nice for my creation. This is beautiful. Like, I done laid it out for him. I done made it nice for him. That's what he did for us because he cares for us. It's like a father that was proud. Like, I made this son. Look at this. This is going to heat him up. I done made these nice plants and trees. They're going to like this. I done made this ocean. They're going to like whales. They may not even know, what they are at first, but they're going to like this. It's a big fish. They're going to like big things, big animals. They maybe going to put them in an aquarium one day so they could just go look at them and stare at them. They're going to like this stuff. He made this for us to enjoy. And then he created Adam. He placed him there, and he gave him ownership. He brought these beasts to him. But something else that shows his care is he saw that, Adam is by himself. I know he needs some company. I know mankind is going to want somebody to talk to because they're going to want to be social. So let me make sure he's got somebody to be with him. Now, that can also be seen as an obstacle, just like the tree. And not saying that women are a bad thing. I'm just saying, he introduces something else that could trip him up. So he may keep asking, there's these things that keep getting added on that could present challenges for Adam. Why does Yahweh keep putting these things here? We're going to get there in a minute. So verse 21, and Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from man, made he woman and brought her unto the man. And Yahweh said, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. So this lets us know that Adam clearly cared about her immediately. But she was literally a piece of him. So he loved her, and he loved her a lot. He loved her so much he started talking about men leaving their families, and he had never even heard of a family. So he loved her, and he cared about her immediately. So he was drawn to her and connected to her. But that connection can also present challenges, the same as it does now. People in relationships, it creates conflicts, especially, within the church. You with somebody and they make it hard for you. So again, we keep asking that question, why did these things keep being introduced that could cause this conflict for him? So I want to go to chapter 3 and just read the first verse, and then we'll talk about it. Because I think it's something interesting that we should kind of consider and think about. So now we got the tree there. Now we got Eve there. Now let's go to verse 1 of chapter 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. So we stop in verse 1, and now we got something else in this garden that can, especially because this thing is now walking around, which is Satan, strutting around, trying to cause trouble. So we've got all these things here that could create these issues. So we may ask, well, why did Yahweh put these things here in the first place? But that goes back to his care for us. Because without the ability to choose, then Adam just would have been trapped there with no other choice but to serve Yahweh. And I thought that was interesting because if you have to force someone to love you and serve you, then do they really love you and serve you? So if he would have removed all obstacles, Adam would have had no choice but to serve Yahweh. But would that really have been his choice? If there's nothing there in that garden at all, then can he make a choice? Does he have the right to choose if I want to serve Yahweh? It kind of becomes a prison, because even if it's a nice prison, and what the Holy Spirit gave me was, no matter how beautiful the cage, it's a cage if there's no way to get out. So he would have trapped him there. He would have had no other choice to serve Yahweh, and it's like, well, do you really love me? And now we know the serpent was there somewhere around. We know Satan had been around. We know that he was tripping from the beginning. So we know that he would have challenged Yahweh on that. He would have said, you done trapped Adam here. You done made this nice place. You done gave him no other choice. He don't really love you. He just loved you because of this nice garden that you gave him. If you gave him any other choice, he would stop serving you. We seen him do it because he did it with Job. So we know that he would challenge Yahweh like that. But Yahweh's righteous enough to say, like, no, I love them, and even though I know this is a complex and heavy thing, I'm going to allow them to choose whether or not they're going to serve me. And that's a heavy thing. I think that the gift of choice is a really interesting thing that we have that. And I think that that's something else we underestimate. That we can choose is a gift from Yahweh. Even if he knows that we may choose against him, I'm still going to bless you with the ability to choose. That's a very powerful thing, and it's a very loving thing for Yahweh to be able to do. So we may see these things, but without those things, Adam would not have a way to choose. And that's the same thing in our lives. Sometimes we need conflict to create a choice, because without conflict, we don't have the ability to choose. Because if everything is all good, then we're just forced to serve Yahweh. And that's another thing that the Holy Spirit gave me, is that when we have these things, these mechanisms create conflict, but that conflict also presents a choice, and it allows you to choose to serve Yahweh. So that you're not boxed in, and Satan can't say they only love you because you're making things right for them. They only love you because everything's perfect. So I think about choice a lot because I think it's an interesting thing, but I also think that it's one of the most powerful gifts we have. And I think that we don't often think about it that way. That we can choose is very powerful. It's incredible that we can. So we should choose right since he's blessed us with that. So we now know Adam has the right to choose, but also Eve does. But because they need to be able to choose. They need to be able to make this choice in this garden. So that is ours. We all have this right to choose. But it's important that we know how that works with what Yahweh said. And we get to see an example of that in the beginning, of how our right to choose, which is ours, he's given it to us. Whether you choose wrong, whether you choose right, it's yours. So that's kind of an inverse of the title of this. That's yours. And we need to know that you get to choose. Everyone does. What it is they're going to do. But, we'll get there. Verse 2. So the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And I just want to stop there because, again, that shows that one, she did know what the law was. Now, she put 20 on 10 like a lot of us do, when somebody says, don't do something, and sometimes, thinking about a parent to a child, sometimes we do that to children. Don't touch that, you're going to die. Don't eat that, you're going to choke and fall out. We say things like that, we take it to an extreme. So maybe even Adam put 20 on 10 so that, he could really convince Eve, like, stay away from that. You're going to die, girl, if you eat that fruit. So she said, okay, I'm going to die if I eat it. So she left it alone. For up to that point, but she knew it, and Yahweh makes sure we know what to do. He doesn't leave us with no clue. He was going to make sure that Adam told Eve what to do. He wasn't going to leave her out there just not knowing what to do, because then that would have made it all the more easier for the enemy to say, hey, eat that, and she just would have said okay, because she don't know what it is. But she knew what was right and what was wrong, and we do too. Even though we like to pretend sometimes like we don't, we know what's right and what's wrong. We just choose different. Verse 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. I thought verse 6 was interesting because it didn't take that much for Satan to convince Eve to eat that fruit. And I thought that potentially that shows that it was somewhere already in her. Pastor had mentioned that, up until that point, you could think of it like a pine cone. They didn't think of it as food because they were told it wasn't. So I can't eat that. So they just passed it every day. But I believe somewhere in there that Eve started passing them pine cones, and somewhere in her heart she started to say, I wonder what they taste like. And it was in her head and her mind. I wonder if it's good. It looked a little crunchy, but maybe I could try it. She started to look at it so that when the enemy came along, he didn't do much. He didn't twist her arm. He just said, hey, try that, basically. You ain't going to die. She was like, oh, okay, I'm going to try it. And we do that sometimes where we already have something in our hearts and in our minds. And all we're looking for is a cosign. And it don't matter who it come from. We just need somebody to give us confirmation. And we say, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. We have a particular sin in mind. We have something in mind that we want to do. I want to talk to this person. They look nice to me, this man or this woman. I just need somebody to come along. And a person come along and say, hey, they're nice. You should get them a try. Okay, that's confirmation. The Lord want me to be with that person. I'm going to get with them. We use things like that because it's already in our heart, our heads, and our minds. And we have already made up our mind, I want to mess up. I want to do this wrong thing. Now, I just need something to come along and tell me, go ahead and do it. And I'm going to go ahead and do it. And it's the same thing with Adam. She didn't twist his arm. She just said, try this. And he just took it and ate it. So there's indications that maybe there was something in both of them that was a little curious to try to do the wrong thing and try to mess up, because it wasn't that hard for them to do it. And they just did it without thinking, almost. But they made a choice. But we're going to see that there are consequences of that choice. Verse 7 says, and the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Yahweh Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh amongst the trees of the garden. And Yahweh Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou not eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? I want to stop there real quick, because maybe some people would get in their hearts and their minds that maybe Adam just did this thing because he loved Eve so much, and it was this great act of love, and it was this, this selfless act. He just didn't want to, her to go down by herself, and he cared about her so much, and some people could twist it that way. But let's read verse 12. And the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. He didn't love her that much, because as soon as Yahweh questioned him, he pointed the finger at her and said she did it. So it wasn't this noble act. He did something because he wanted to, and he made a choice. And that's important for us too. Sometimes we make choices and we try to throw it off on the other person. Or I did this because, or I have this reason why. But then when we're in the fire and it's an issue, well, we want to point the finger at this person and say, well, they made me do it. No, you made a choice, because that choice is yours. You own it. She didn't force him. Neither did Satan force Eve, and we'll see in a minute she tried to blame him, though. But they didn't twist, nobody's arm was twisted. They all utilized their gift of choice to choose to do the wrong thing, even though they did know the right thing. They knew what was the right thing to do because they were told the right thing. So there's no one to blame. Verse 13, and Yahweh said unto the woman, what is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat, passing the blame. And Yahweh said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above every beast of the field, and upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field, and the sweat of thy face, shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahweh Elohim make coats of skins and clothe them. So I think this is important, because when we look at this, because we make choices, and the choices are ours. But when we know what's right and wrong, when Yahweh lets us know that up front, that while we have the right to choose, we don't have the right to alter the consequences of those choices. Those are set. When Yahweh says this is the law, this is what it is. And when you choose to make a decision that's contrary to that, you can't go back and change the consequences of that choice. You're stuck with it. And we may say, well, there are unbelievers on this earth doing whatever it is they want to do. On this earth, they may be able to reap benefits of their choices, but in the end, they can't alter those consequences. Whatever choices they made that are against Yahweh's law and his word, they're going to have to deal with the consequences of those choices. None of us can escape the consequences of our choices. We can make them, But Yahweh lets us know up front, these are the consequences of them. This is what's going to happen if you do this. And we can't turn around and say, well, no. I want to change that. Just like them. They made this choice. He said, surely you will die. And they didn't die immediately, but there was a death of a whole lot of things in what happened to them. So it happened. They couldn't shift it. Even though they tried to pass blame, even though they may have felt bad about it, their thoughts and feelings couldn't alter those consequences. And that's why we have to be careful of the choices we make, because the consequences are not ours. Well, they are ours to be, but Yahweh sets what they are. And that's important for us to know. That it doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what you feel. You got to deal with them once you go through with your choice. So before we make that choice that belongs to us, we need to think about, what are these consequences? What's going to happen when I make this choice? Because once you make it and you're in it, a lot of times we don't want to be in it because we got to deal with the consequences, but you had the choice to do something different before. You had the choice to listen to Yahweh's word before, because his word is law. But also, I'm telling you up front how to win. I'm telling you how to succeed, and you didn't want to do that. You said, I think I'm going to do it this way. I feel like it should go this way. And then when you get the consequences of that, oh, wait. I want to change this, Lord. I don't feel good about this no more. Well, no, you said this is what you want. So this is what you're going to get, and this is what you have to deal with. So I want to go to Psalm 50, because we'll see a few more examples of that. And I think there's a good example of that also, kind of hidden in verse 50. Psalm 50, we're going to start at chapter 1. And we're going to read 1 through 6 first. It says, the mighty God, even Yahweh, have spoken, and called the earth from the rising of the sun to the going down thereof. Out of Zion the perfection of beauty God hath shined. Our God shall come and shall not keep silence. A fire shall devour before him, and it shall be very tempestuous round about him. And he shall call to the heavens from above, and to the earth, that he may judge his people. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. And the heavens shall declare his righteousness, for God is judge himself. So I want to stop there because I want to focus on that very last line. Because we have to understand that Yahweh doesn't share space. He's the judge by himself. And sometimes we want to interfere within that space, and we have to stop doing that as believers. We have to let God be God. And sometimes we want to be God. We want to be the one to make the decisions and decide and figure out, this is what it should be and this is how it should go. And God is saying, just let me be the judge by myself. Let me be the one who does this, because I'm qualified to do it. I know how things work. I'm the creator of all things. I know the beginning and the end and the middle. I know the future, the past, and the present. I know what I'm doing. I'm judged by myself. Let me just be God, because I think within that too, once we get to the end, it's not going to be any other judge. It's not going to be, it's just going to be Yahweh saying, this was my law. This is how things went. You either get in or you don't based on what I said, because this is mine. It's just me. So we can live a life full of thoughts and feelings and build a life off of that. But when it comes to the end, he's not going to say, well, what you think about this? Do you think you need to get into heaven? Do you think you was a good person? No, it's what I said was good. It's what I said was righteous. It's what I said was the law. Did you follow this? And we should be okay with that as saved people. We shouldn't be challenging him on that, because we see that he wants us to succeed and win. He's laid it out for us. That's what the word is. It's a plan for us to make it, to be saved. It's a plan for us to reach him and to reach heaven. He gave us this to get to him, because that's what he wants. He gave us this to live complete and full lives. And that doesn't mean being rich with a mansion. It means a real complete and full life where you're fulfilled on the inside more than you could ever be on the outside. That's what the word is for us. And this is what he gave us. He made a plan for us, knowing that we weren't going to know what to do with choice before the earth began, because I want you to make it. And yet still, when he tells us, how to make it, we find ourselves saying, oh, I think I feel, we think or feel a lot of things. Some people, have somebody to talk to, you thought that dusty man that you laid up with was good before you got with him, but now you see he's not nothing. You thought that outfit looked cute, but really you don't look good at all. You thought eating whatever was right, whatever you wanted to was going to be good for you, but now you're 50 pounds heavier. We think and feel a lot of stuff, but we don't know what we're doing. And that's all right. We make choices and decisions, and we mess up all the time because human beings don't know what they're doing. Choice is a big thing. And it's difficult to make choices. And when we try to do it based off what we think and feel, we mess up so many times because these are my thoughts and feelings. But emotions are highly deceptive. Emotions will say, do this. And you come down off that emotion, you say, what in the world did I do? Emotions will say this. And you say it and it come out your mouth and you can't take it back. You've hurt someone. Or you said something, you committed to something you didn't want to commit to. Because you're feeling good and you say like, I'm going to give you $100. You realize I ain't got $100 in my bank account. Emotions and feelings will hype you up and cause you to make poor decisions. That's why this is a spiritual book. Yahweh is spirit, so he guides us by the spirit. And he helps us to do things spiritually because he wants us to make it. He wants us to be fulfilled. So your thoughts and feelings ain't going to get it. But if the spirit is right and Yahweh is leading your spirit, then I can guide you with the right thing. Even though it may not feel good all the time, that don't matter. Your feelings will mess you up. I got you because all things work together for your good. I got the plan for you. I want you to make it in. I want you to get into heaven. I know what I'm doing. You just hush and follow me. I got it. But we want to say, nah, Lord, I got this. I got this. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to get this one right. And we do it and we fail and then we look crazy and we got to deal with them consequences because we can't change those. And then we stuck. We got to stop doing that because we do that a lot as believers, where we stop trusting him. And that's really a faith issue, where we got to trust that he is judged by himself. God is God. And we serving the big God, the big G-O-D, the only one, the creator of everything. And he's got it all in his hands. We've seen that he got the whole world in his hands. But then we say, Lord, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to put it in my hands. And it slips out of our hands and it breaks. And then we are looking crazy. So it's important that we understand that. What's ours, what's not. So I want to read a little bit more because there's one more point I want to make. Verse 7 says, Hear, O my people, and I will speak, O Israel, and I will testify against thee. I am God, even thy God. I will not reprove thee for thy sacrifices or thy burnt offerings to have been continually before me. I will take no bullock out of thy house, nor he goats out of thy folds. For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills. I know all the fowls of the mountains and the wild beasts of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine and the fullness thereof. I want to stop there. This is not a point I want to make, but I believe the Holy Spirit has given this to me because I think that's important. Yahweh doesn't want anything out of us. Some people believe that the church wants your money, and there are some churches that do. But Yahweh is not looking for your money. He doesn't need anything from it but he don't even need our obedience, because if we trip and he said he'll make the rocks cry out. So he doesn't need anything from us. We need him. I need his help because I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm okay saying that I tried to make my own decisions and I jacked myself up. So now I need Yahweh's help, and I'm okay saying that. So we have to understand that. Some people believe that Yahweh really needs them. He needs my praise. He needs my presence. I'm it. But no, he's it. And we should be going after him, not the other way around, and he's not. He wants us. He loves us. He wants us to serve him, but he doesn't need us, and that's two different things. And I think that's important. Verse 13, Will I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Offer unto God thanksgiving and pay thy vows unto the Most High, and call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me. But unto the wicked saith, What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee. When thou sawest a thief, then thou contendest with him, and hast been partaker with adulterers. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. Thou slanderest thy own mother's son. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such a one as thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. I'm going to read, starting at verse 16, from the Complete Jewish Bible. In verse 16 it says, But to the wicked God says, What right do you have to proclaim my laws, or take my covenant on your lips, when you so hate to receive instruction and fling my words behind you? When you see a thief, you join up with him. You throw in your lot with adulterers. You give your mouth free rein for evil and harness your tongue to deceit. You sit and speak against your kinsmen. You slander your own mother's son. When you do such things, should I stay silent? You may have thought I was just like you, but I will rebuke and indict you to your face. I thought that was important because it goes along with the title, I believe, perfectly. Because some people only want to, some people don't treat this like it's theirs. You know, you don't treat this holiness like it's yours. You know, you don't covet it like it's yours. You don't covet my word like it's yours, so it's not. You know, and it says, what right do you have to proclaim my laws? You know, people only want to call on Yahweh when it's for the good things, when they want blessings. But when it comes to following his word, he's not good enough for that. You know, when he's good enough to do things for you, but he's not good enough to help you close your mouth. He's not good enough to help you live a righteous life. So it's like, well, this ain't really yours. You know, you proclaim it to be. You walk around and act like it's yours, but you don't treat it like this is yours. Like this is your God and your salvation, your righteousness. You throw it away whenever you feel like it. You push it to the side when it's convenient for you. So it's not really yours because you don't treat it like it's yours. You don't protect it like it's yours. You don't covet it like it's yours. And the last part I thought was good, 221, where it says, you may have thought I was just like you. And I think that's important too, because some people think because they're not experiencing hellfire on this earth, that it's going to be all right. But the word has already told you what's right and what's righteous, what the consequences are of living an unrighteous life and not doing it his way is. So that when you open up your eyes in hell, you can't be surprised because I told you what it was. Some people want Yahweh to follow them around all day saying, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. Which also we have, if you follow the word, you got the Holy Spirit, which essentially he's helping you to do that. He's giving you what it is. But people literally want Yahweh to be right there with them. You know, you getting ready to drink a beer, he's going to smack it out your hand. You know, you getting ready to say something, he's going to put his hand over your mouth. That's what people want. And he's not going to do that because I told you what's right. I told you how to be saved. I told you how to get into heaven. You know. You have access to it. It's yours to do that. This word is ours to read from and to gain knowledge from. And just because you're not getting rebuked every single day and Yahweh standing over you wagging his finger, don't think I'm okay with what you're doing. Because I already told you I'm not. I already told you it's wrong. And like you said, I'm going to rebuke you and indict you to your face. When he judges us, it's not going to be, you know, he's going to turn his back or he's hiding from us. Or even the word. You know, the word is right there open for us, right in our faces. So the truth is there for us. The last thing we're going to look at is Numbers 20:12, because I think it goes along with this. And I just wanted to use this example because I think it's important to look at this specific example. And this just talks about Moses. And this is when he speak to the rock. And instead of speaking to the rock to get the water out, he struck it. And he went against what Yahweh said. So we see kind of a similar pattern where Moses knew the right thing to do. Yahweh told him this is what you're supposed to do. And then he went ahead and did what he thought and what he felt. And I want to read verse 12, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. And it says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron, because you believed me not to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. And I just wanted to read that verse 12. Because there were other versions of that that say that they didn't treat him as holy. They didn't treat it as Yahweh's word was what, you know, was the right thing. They placed, or Moses in this case, placed his feelings and thoughts above what Yahweh said. And what I thought was interesting about this situation with Moses is that if you look at it at a certain angle, you could say his anger was justifiable. Because the children of Israel were tripping the whole time in that wilderness. And they were nagging at him. And they were putting all of this on his back. And he got upset. And he was tired of them. And he just slapped that rock because he was sick of them. And you could say, well, you know what? He had the right to be upset. But he had the right to be upset. That didn't give him the right to violate Yahweh's word. And that's what's important. So that he knew what to do. He went against that based off of what he thought and what he felt. And he had to face the consequences. And I thought Moses was a good example to look at because he was a really righteous man. He was holy, he was faithful. But when he made a poor choice, he had to deal with those consequences. He could not go into the promised land. He was restricted from that. And he really wanted to go. He came back again and asked Yahweh, can I go? And Yahweh said, no, you're not going. Because he was serious. He faced that consequence. So I thought that was interesting for us because a lot of people ain't touching Moses. But they think they out here and they can do whatever it is they want to, and you're going to stroll into heaven all raggedy and all out of place. But if Moses could not get Moses, who was righteous, who Yahweh let him see his hind parts, if he could not go to the promised land because he made one poor choice that we could justify as human beings and say, I get why you was mad. But Yahweh said, I don't care about you being mad because I said this is what to do. And I know the right thing to do. This was a chance to show them that I'm holy. That even though they cutting up and they doing the wrong thing, show them that I still love them and care for them and I can still do all things. But he said, nah, I'm going to cut up. And that's all you showed them was anger. You showed them Moses, big mad. And that's all they got to see. And that didn't lead to Yahweh being sanctified. So he couldn't go. Now, us in this world, we have a chance to show people Yahweh. And we show our thoughts and our feelings. And that's a mess. And that's all they get to see. And they don't get to see Yahweh sanctified. But we think that I'm a strutting to heaven, not violating his word, doing what I think and what I feel. And he's going to say no. Same way he told Moses, even though Moses really wanted to go, he's going to say no. As Pastor would say, he's going to say, get over there with them goats. Even though they're going to, some people may say, did not prophesy in your name, did not do all these things. Yeah, because that's what you thought you were supposed to do, instead of doing what I asked you to do. And we have to understand that. So I think there's a lot more here. I don't think I'm done, because I think there's a lot more layers in this. But when I get a chance to come back, we'll talk about it more. But I think that's important for us to end on, is that we have to treat this salvation as it's ours, because it's our choice what we do with it. Yahweh has blessed us with this earth. He has blessed us with the word and told us what to do. He has given these things. But we have to understand that we don't get to set the consequences. We don't get to set the boundaries, the rules, and the restrictions. That's Yahweh. But what we do get to do, and what is ours and what is our choice, is how we live this life, how we serve him, how we represent him. That's ours. And we should do our best to represent with what we have. We should do our best to utilize his gift of choice as good as we can and listen to what he said, because he wants us to win and succeed. He wants us to have the victory. That's ours if we want it to be. Praise Yeshua. Father, my name is Yeshua. We thank you for bringing us here tonight. We thank you for blessing us with your word. We ask you to continue to keep us and use us, Yeshua. We ask you to continue to bless us with your wisdom, Lord. Help us to follow you, Lord, your instruction, your word, Yeshua, Lord, to choose, Lord, to serve you, Lord, with a full and complete heart, and to do your holy will, Lord. We cast out Satan any evil and disruptive oppressive distractions, and we bind them in the pits of hell. And we thank you for the victory in all things, Yahweh. We give you all the praise, all the glory, and all the honor. In Yeshua's mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen.